afternoon, Mets fans, and thank you for joining me on another episode of Driving with Mr. Met. I am Mr. Met, and I'm coming at you with the final piece of the puzzle in my spring training wrap-up, where I talked last week about the rotation and the bullpen, and the infield and the outfield. Today, the last piece of the review, of the player review, is going to be the bench. And I've sort of laid out 20 or 21 guys who are going to occupy the other four areas, which left 4 or perhaps 5 men for the bench. And it was pretty clear prior to the injury to Lagares this past weekend, at least to me, who those guys were going to be. With the injury, though, that brings up a whole bunch of other questions. So with Lagares not being, more than likely not being available to be the fourth outfielder, it leaves the big question mark of, is Michael Conforto going to be the fourth outfielder on this team? We really don't know. I mean, it's a great question now, because had I been asked prior to Lagares' injury if Conforto was going to be on the roster, I was going to say no, without question. I was going to say he was going to start the season in AAA, needs to get regular at-bats, that's the best thing for him. But now that Lagares is not going to be there to be that fourth outfielder, the guy who could play all 3 outfield positions, it's got to be Conforto. I think Conforto is the best choice to be the fourth outfielder. He can play left field, he can play center field, and I believe he can play right field as well. So Conforto is going to occupy one of those bench spots now, based on Lagares' injury. Now, earlier today, I read something about Lagares telling Cespedes that his MRI showed no damage. That's great and wonderful, and that being said, it's an oblique injury, and as I said yesterday, the oblique is the oblique. It's not something to mess around with, and it can, regardless of whether it shows any structural damage in an MRI, it can result in 3 or 4 weeks of discomfort and not able to swing the bat, not being able to run as well as he could or should. So Lagares is not going to be on the opening day roster. It's going to be Conforto. We've got, of course, Wilmer Flores, who's going to be the super sub on the infield. He can play all 4 infield positions. So it'll be Flores. It'll be Rene Rivera as the backup catcher to start the season, not Kevin Plawecki. And that leaves 1 or perhaps 2 other spots. Now, the question about how many guys will be in the bullpen will determine whether it'll be a 4-man or a 5-man bench. But I think one of those spots is going to belong to TJ Rivera. TJ's had a nice spring. He had a pretty decent World Baseball Classic as well. So TJ Rivera is going to be one of those guys. There's a question about Ty Kelly. He'll probably be in Vegas to start the season. And I think the other guy who's going to be bandied about here will be Brandon Nimmo. Nimmo, of course, also injured, so he's really not an option as well. So I think we're going to have Conforto, Flores, Rene Rivera, and TJ Rivera as the bench guys. And with the big question mark about Familia's suspension, we might end up with a 5th bench guy. Who's it going to be? Who do you guys think should be that 5th member of the bench if there is one that's going to be needed? I'm leaning toward Ty Kelly out of all of them. I hope it's not Plawecki, but as Keith pointed out today on the broadcast, Plawecki has had a decent spring, so maybe it will be Kevin and they'll have 3 catchers. Who knows? So that wraps up the bench. Let me know what your thoughts are about who that 5th person should be. Let me know if you disagree with my assessment about Conforto being on the opening day roster. And let me know your thoughts about the rest of the team and how it's being constructed. Robert Zellman, by the way, pitched exceptionally well today. He will lock down that 5th starter spot. I think that's a done deal. And Zach Wheeler, although he pitched very well yesterday, will probably start the season in extended spring training. So that'll do it for today. Thank you for tuning in. Tomorrow or Thursday, I will be posting one final video with my preseason thoughts, with a few unanswered questions, rhetorical questions, and predictions for the season. So until that time, thanks again for watching, and as always, let's go Mets!